Welcome to the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged. I'm Rebecca Monet, CEO and Chief Scientist at Zorkel Profiles, along with my co-host, community advocate, speaker, author, and entrepreneur, Tracy Kawa. Our special guest today is none other than Debra. And Debra, please pronounce your name for me because I always botch it.
It's Vilchis. It's an odd name, just like everything about me. My last name has to be odd too.
Of
Vilchis.
course. It's all about the branding, right? Yeah. So Debra has 20 years experience in franchise public relations and content marketing. As COO of Fishman Public Relations, Debra manages client relations, develops new client service offerings, and builds operational systems and best practices to keep the agency on top of the game in the franchise industry. Debra also conducts media training workshops and serves as the agency's lead crisis communication expert. Debra's main emphasis is on outcomes, ensuring the agency's franchise client campaigns generate franchisee and customer leads. Debra serves on the IFA Women's Franchise Committee, the IFA Annual Leadership Conference Task Force, and on the board of directors for the WorldCom Public Relations Group. Welcome, Debra. We're so glad you're here.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm excited to talk.
We're excited.
Very excited. Debra, it sounds like you wear a few different hats and you have this amazing track record in 20 years of PR. But I understand also before that, you had a vast, extensive background in journalism, not only with state government, but then also with newspapers and magazines. How did you manage to make that migration over to the PR side from journalism?
Yeah, it was a big step and a big decision, because in the world of journalism, you know, the PR is considered like the dark side, right? Like stepping over to the dark side. But yeah, when I was a child, and I don't remember what year it was when Watergate really came out, and my parents took me to go see All the President's Men. And, you know, so Woodward and Bernstein, I just was like enthralled by this whole idea of uncovering scandal, you know. So they said, we walked out of the theater and I was like, that's what I'm going to do. That's exactly what I'm going to do when I grow up. So I went to journalism school, and then I went on to get my master's at a program that focuses totally on covering government for journalism. And so I graduated from there, and I proceeded to get my first job in journalism. That was a suburban daily newspaper in Chicago, after interning at this exciting thing at the Associated Press in Springfield. And I wound up sitting at these like village board meetings and school board meetings, listening to people argue about, you know, or zoning boards about the height of a fence or a sign. And I'm like, this kind of isn't what I thought it was going to be.
I didn't sign up for this.
Yes, but I kept plugging away at it. And then at some point, you know, I heard about this PR thing where you can actually, you know, have normal hours and still kind of work with journalists and still be creative and write and be a part of the news without, you know, having to be in it, you know, on the sidelines, like right there all the time reporting on it. So that's kind of how I made the jump.
I never thought of it as distinctly different that way, but you're right. As a journalist, you're sort of getting your hands dirty in the argument and in the debate and in the different views of things, and you're reporting on it. Where with public relations, you're creating something in an image for your clients in such a way you're managing the perceptions rather than reporting on the perceptions. So I hadn't thought of it that way. That's a really fascinating way to look at this jump. And also what's exciting to me is that you knew yourself well enough that wasn't you. That just wasn't a good fit, even though you had your degree in it and you were willing to take the risk and go another direction.
Yeah, just sort of sitting on the sidelines and reporting on things that the editors told me I needed to cover. It just wasn't cutting it for me. And, I was young and impatient and I wanted more. And so I wasn't to be honest, I wasn't quite ready to really pay my dues, in journalism. And had I stuck around, who knows, maybe I'd be at the top bureau at AP or something like that in Washington. But you know what? I'm no regrets. I love the shift that I made, and it's been no turning back for me ever. I never thought twice about it.
It's beautiful. I have been observing your career for many years from the sidelines, and there's a couple of things that I have noticed about you, and I'm wondering if you could give us some insight into this. There's a part of you that's kind of an instigator, right? Whether that's an instigator to fun or an instigator to look at something differently. Would you agree you're a bit of a, turn things upside down, fight status quo, instigator type of individual?
Yes, I would agree. And my parents would agree with the word instigator. Yeah, I think the part of that is really true is I just don't believe in leaving things as they are, even if they're working. I just kind of like to mess things up and see how they might go if we tried it a different way. And if it doesn't work out the new way, fine, we go back to the old way. But just the idea of doing things over and over again the same is unsettling to me, honestly. And my team is always like, oh God, not another one, because I'll come in and I'll be like, you guys, I have this great idea. Why don't we run our team meetings like this? Instead of doing it on Monday mornings, let's do it this way. And, instead of, just anything that I want to try and roll out a new service all the time. And they're like, well, we just rolled out this one and we're just kind of beta testing that one. So I do need people around me to kind of reel me in and shut those things down. But yeah, it's definitely, I can't, the idea of things staying the same. And it's funny because it's almost like a dichotomy. Like people would say, wait a minute, here's somebody talking about instigating change all the time, but I've been at the same company for 23 years, or I've been in the same marriage, for 27 years. I've taught the same Sunday school class grade, since 1996. I've stayed in the same house in the same city. But yet I feel like on the macro level, I like the idea of stability. And I don't think you need to jump ship all the time and change things and change partners and change jobs in this. I think there's a lot you can do with what you have to shake things up. Like I'm a shaker-upper, I think.
That's interesting. A few years back, I went to a Tony Robbins seminar, and he was talking all about how, as human beings, we need a certain amount of stability, and then we also need a certain amount of instability. So it's not like we need one or the other. We need a certain amount of both. So I could understand how, when you're in a job for 20 something years, how there are other things that are a little more controllable, right? And they're kind of like little science experiments. Let's see how this will work. Let's see how that will work. And I can see how those would be exciting on more of a weekly, or monthly basis.
I love the way you said science experiments, because that is the way I like to think about it. I instigated the start of a new team a couple of years ago. And of course it kind of flopped, but it's okay. You don't know unless you try. And we called the team the New Frontier. And they were the team that was going to be just testing out everything new. So what all the other teams have been doing and operating their accounts and the way that we did things for years was all going to go by the wayside. And if anybody on this New Frontier team had ideas to do things better or different, this was the place to do it. And if it didn't work, I would take the blame, you know? So yeah, it was definitely a giant science experiment.
I really like that whole idea of allowing your team to be pioneers, to think outside the box, to try something new, to take risks. I mean, it almost sounds like, you were encouraging it and rewarding it. If it worked or it didn't work was not as relevant as let's try. Who knows what could come out of that? So that whole mental process of thinking outside the box, no doubt has come up with some really cool ideas by your team and by the firm in general. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, because I mean, look, I'm not going to do anything that's going to be catastrophic and bring the whole agency down that Sherry and Brad have built for 30 some years, you know. But I do think the idea of just being complacent and just doing things over and over again the same way is also catastrophic. It can be for a company of any kind. So there are a lot of things that you can try and shake up, and it's not going to be, what's the worst thing that can happen? It doesn't work. And if we lose a few clients because some crazy, you know, concocted idea that Deb came up with, you know, so be it. You know, there's lots of franchises out there will get it. I don't like that idea of losing clients. I hope for a positive outcome. But if that's the worst outcome, you know, it's not so bad. To me, it's the idea of staying the same and not trying is worse.
Well, you're in a creative space anyway, and to feed that creativity, that do things a little bit different is important. There's some saying about that, and Tracy, you probably remember something about if we're not changing and we're not growing, we're dying, right? And I think that's true both psychologically as human beings, but it's also for business. We always have to be relevant, and we have to be fresh, and we have to be thinking, which means sometimes we have to take risks and throw a dart at a board and hope it works. And sometimes we're going to fail. It's just the way it is.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Exactly. It's very scary. The idea that you could just sort of shrivel up or become stale in your industry because you were afraid to try new things. And you have to really ingrain that, you know, in your culture. When we hire new employees, we look for it. We look for that quality. The candidates do not know that we are asking them questions that bring that out, but we want to bring people in who are not afraid to speak up, not afraid to say, you know, this really could be a better way that you guys could do things or what have you. So we look for that quality. And then when we bring them on, I do the first set of trainings. It's like I do the indoctrination, you know, of them into the agency. And I really hone in on that. Like we have these core values that hang in a wall that I could show you at some point if you
I would love to see
take a little tour.
Yeah.
But one of them is improve. And I tell them, like, you guys, we cannot, please, please, please don't be one of those people who leaves us in 2 years. And the first time we're hearing about things that you didn't like or thought we could be doing better is in your exit interview. Like, how I cannot read your mind when you're here. Like, if you would have told me a lot of that or told us, we could have made changes. We're not afraid of change. So don't accept a mediocre process or a mediocre pitch that's going to go to the media. You know, don't tell us, well, this sucks and this is terrible. Tell us, we want you to say, we don't really like this and we think it could be better. And it sounds promotional. I think the media would like it if we rewrote it this way, or I think you guys could be a little bit more efficient if we ran our teams this way or structured the agency a different. We want you to tell us. Please do not sit there and accept what's been given to you. I want everybody to be an instigator.
Right.
Yes, we're going to turn into everybody instigating. Yeah.
And it seems like that's what the Fishman PR brand speaks about, because I'm reading it right behind you. And I think it says moving brands forward. So
Yes.
how can you move brands forward if you're not trying new things and you're
And-
just sticking to the way things were done? So it's really built into the culture from what I can tell.
It absolutely is. And the great thing about it is we all believe in that. There's nobody here who resists it. We all believe it. There are some people who are a little bit more cautious and tend to be the ones to, you know, poke holes through all of my ideas, but I need that too. I need people like that. So yeah, we're all on the same train here, but I think if there was one of, if someone was going to point their finger and say, you're the biggest instigator, I think I'd have that sticky note on my forehead.
I totally agree. You know, you were talking about, and I don't know if you can actually get up and show it to us, but you were talking to me the other day about this gong thing and your values thing. Can you tell us a little bit about how the gong thing works, and is it related to new ideas, thinking outside the box, instigating? Tell us more about that. I love that idea.
Well, I mean, here's the thing is PR is a thankless job a lot. So clients, you know, will complain and complain when they don't see the results that they want or whatever. And then when you get them, they don't always say, you know, great job getting us on the news, even though it's like, you do not know what it took for us to make that happen. Oh my God. You know, so we don't hear a lot of that praise. So we really try to work hard internally. One of our other core values is encourage. So the gong is recognition. When somebody gets a compliment from a client, when somebody has a franchisee tell them, you know what, that story that you got me, or that Instagram post that you worked with that influencer on, I had people coming and talking about it. It generated new customers. Or when a franchisor tells us, you know, that story that you got for us in Business Insider or Inc. magazine or what have you, the podcast that you got me on, it got us leads. Like, we sold franchises off of that. That feels really good. So yeah, I mean, I'll show you, that was something that I wanted to change. When I got here, I was like, how do we make a big deal out of that for people? So I'll kind of walk you here. Are you getting?
And it
Great.
is a big deal. We have to celebrate these successes because many of our jobs are kind of thankless.
Yes.
Right. And this is no exception. So I like, oh my gosh, look at that.
Wait, there it is. Okay, you can see it.
The
And-
gong zone.
There's no better feeling than this bad boy makes a lot of noise. Do you want me to hit it? I can hit it.
Yes, I want to
Okay.
hear it.
All right, it's really, be careful.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And the best thing is when it goes kind of on and goes like for a while. It's really great and it's exciting. And when we had everybody here in the office together all the time, it didn't matter if people were on calls with clients. They'd have to say, oh, I'm sorry, that's our gong. Somebody must have done something amazing. Or
Awesome.
so yes, that is our gong.
It's instant recognition, which only inspires us to do even more. And hey, I'd want to be hitting that gong, right? All right, so I want to shift gears just a little bit. Again, I've been observing you for 20 some years, and there's another side of you that you kind of hinted at, you know, where there's a need for tradition and stability and consistency. But tradition in particular, there's a part of you that truly appreciates the value of tradition. What kind of traditions are important to you, and how have you integrated that into Fishman PR?
Well, so it is, while you're rolling out all these changes and you never know what to expect every day in PR, it's good to know that there are some things that stay the same. And I'm a stickler about not changing up certain things. So, one example would be way back, it was like 15, 16 years ago, like I don't know, however long after I came. And I'm a big fan of Halloween. It's my favorite holiday. We get ridiculous at home with like wiring up things on the sidewalk and covering them up. And then the kids come and step on them and like big noises come and they go, ah! Anyway, we're really big on Halloween. So we decided, I came to the Fishmans and I said, can we please do something fun on Halloween? We have young people here. So what we came up with was, instead of the scary thing, we came up with a way to work our clients into it. And we put people in groups. The group, one person picks a name out of literally a jar. And the name is a name of one of our clients. And then as a group, they don't tell anybody who it is. Only the group knows. They have to dress up like that brand. They have to represent the brand in costume. So, we've had anything from the whole team coming up as like a burrito dinner, and then they do a skit around it. They have to act it out. And then Sherry and Brad judge, first, second, and third place for like creativity, for humor, for like, doing a really good job with their costume. And we've had a whole team come in a big giant cardboard car that they made, if it's an automotive brand. It's just hysterical. It's really fun. And it gets our staff kind of interacting and creating together, which is something that's great as well. And we spend the day playing games, half the day, like playing games. And we pull a big screen down and we have a scary movie playing in the background and stuff. And it's just a lot of fun.
That sounds
I
like
won't
so
change
much
it.
fun. I wouldn't change it. That sounds like so much fun. I love that. The
Yeah.
burrito, the car.
I want to work for Fishman PR. They know how to have fun and be
We
creative.
can use good people, Rebecca. Come on in.
Oh, but it's interesting because I'm fascinated with the human behavior part, because not only were you creating fun and you're inspiring creativity and all of that, but this is kind of a morale, team building, pull together exercise at the same time.
Yeah, it totally is. We make it so that if you're on a team here, you can't be on the same team as the Halloween costume team. Like, we mix the people up just so that, we get different people knowing each other and mixing them up. And, we've had people want to change that up and like, how about we each do an individual costume? Or how about instead of a franchise, we dress up as, and I said, no, that's staying the same. Our franchisee Halloween is staying. We have a ritual at our annual holiday party. It's the secret snow pail. It has not changed from the day you pick somebody's name out. And there's forms that everybody fills out about their favorite book, their favorite candy, their whatever. So you know what to get that person. That's on the form that you pull. And then at the holiday party, we call people up by team, and everybody on, our teams all have names. So everybody on the Media Masters team, go and give your secret snow pail their gift right now. And that has never changed. That has been for the whole 22 years that I've been. And people have said, can we do it a different way? No, that's not changing. Sorry, guys. We will always have team meetings on Monday mornings. That's a ritual. Let's get everybody kind of together. We have an icebreaker at the beginning of each meeting to kind of get things going. But I'm a firm believer in Monday morning, let's get our heads together. Let's regroup. Let's know what our priorities are for the week, and no questions asked about how you're supposed to be spending your time. So those are some rituals I'm just going to not let go of ever. And yeah, I don't even try to change those things.
You know what I like about the Snow Santa and the Halloween event that you do is that it's all based on getting to know someone or something better. So you're getting to know each other on the team better, like within, within Fishman, or you're getting to know the brands that you serve better. Because it's one thing to sit and think of, a messaging or a content for a brand or a new product or the brand as a whole. But what is it like to really like go in depth and get into the weeds of the brand and then represent the brand in a costume or however you do it as a game? It's really about getting to know each other better. I love that. I love that.
It's fun. We have to work together, and knowing each other as people helps with the empathy. It helps with the bonding, the relationships. It's all a part of it.
Yeah. And getting to know the brands better too.
Correct.
Right? You really feel like you're a part of that brand when you're out in the world representing them in a PR fashion.
Yes, for sure. Because the clients really love, like, we'll send them, we take videos of the skits and we take pictures of the costumes, and they just think it's a real stitch. Like, one of our brands is an optometrist, and so it's like a vision lab. And so one of the people on the team came in as a giant eyeball. The other person, it just is really funny. And it's a way for us to sort of loosen things up with the clients as well. They kind of appreciate the creativity, and then they pass the video around internally, and they're like, look what Fishman did on Halloween. They dressed up as us, and it's a good time. Yeah.
It's great bonding. Oh my gosh, I can see all these eyeballs at a party. Never mind the word "I" itself has 1,000 different ways you can play with that word, right? So that had to be hilarious. I don't know if you can share that publicly, but we would love to share it on our podcast if that's something you
I'll
can
definitely send it to you. It
We
was
would love it.
out of sight.
Out of sight.
It's really bad.
Oh my gosh, this is so much fun. I need more fun. This is great, which is another part of who you are. That whether you are focusing on instigating, stirring things up, battling as a superhero, status quo, all of those things, or you are holding on tradition and fighting for that tradition. Either way, the bridge between seems to be this common denominator. In both situations, fun is at the center of that. So you are someone, wherever you go and whatever you're doing, somehow brings a party with you or a party breaks out when Deb is available. So let me ask you, has this always been you? Did you come out of the womb as this playful, fun, silly, outrageous young lady, or is this something you had to learn to become?
I don't remember being any other way. And my mom told me, and my teachers always told her to kind of tone it down a little bit. I was officially class clown senior year. So, I mean, and it's not like, it just is just, we have some quotes and some signs here on the wall. And one of them that I picked out was, life is too short to be serious all the time. And then somebody scratched it out and put, Deb is too short to be serious all the time. But yeah, I mean, everybody is in a stressful business. I mean, everybody, you can't, it's not a competition whose job is more stressful. But we are really fast paced here, and the pressure is high every day to perform. The clients expect results. There's crisis that happens on any given day among any of our clients, and you have to be prepared. And there's a lot going on in an agency world, because you're not just working on one brand, you're working on multiple. So you'll pull your hair out, and it can get pretty stressful. So it's a survival skill. The fun part of it, just busting up in the middle of the day laughing, and somebody just saying something ridiculous, or every once in a while I'll just walk out of my office and do a ridiculous walk or something. I don't know, it's just the craziest things. But if you don't do that, I don't know, I just don't know any other way. I can't imagine having an office of people just with their heads down all the time, and there's no laughter. And we've established that virtually as well, like as we're working more remote and not together every day with everybody in the office. We do a lot of fun and funny things over our Slack. We have like a funny pet channel that we do where we all are constantly posting funny pictures of our pets, and we open up all our team meetings with some hysterical exercises that just get people laughing, because it just is a good way. It gets the creative juices flowing, just makes you feel good, right? Who doesn't like a good laugh?
Exactly.
And I think more creativity comes, like you said, it gets the creative juices flowing. More creativity comes out of fun than out of stress. And Rebecca, as a behavioral scientist, can actually speak to that, I would think. Right?
There's no doubt there is a neurological connection, whether we're conscious of it or not, that a greater creativity comes out of a brain that's filled with endorphins and dopamine, which is what laughter and fun and silliness is.
Yeah.
And so we do tend to be more creative. So consciously or unconsciously, you have created this beautiful environment of silliness and playfulness, but there's fruits that come from that. We become more creative. I got to tell you a crazy story. I have a grandson-in-law that helped me with a bit of a remodel. And he's a big guy, and he's a little, because he's so big, he's sometimes a little awkward, right? And he breaks things on a regular basis. Anyway, long story short, we had this tempered glass for a shower that I had bought, and I asked him to move it from the inside into the garage, and it happened to be winter. And as he moved it from inside to outside, it hit the cold air, and he's standing there, and it just shatters into a million pieces. Now, I didn't hear it. No one else heard it. He comes back in, and he's a new grandson-in-law, so he didn't know how he was going to tell me that he had just destroyed several $100s worth of glass. So he comes in, and he's telling me this story. He said, "Grandma Becca, it just poof, it just boom, it just went off right in my hands." And I'm like, he's lying to me. That's not possible. Glass doesn't just blow up in somebody's hands. But I got to tell you, Deb, I have thought about how he must have felt literally just carrying a piece of glass and it going poof. And that visual in my head has had me crack up so many times in the car, going to places, in church. I am laughing so hard at both what that happening and his panic that he has to tell Grandma Becca something terrible happened. And I think that, again, that's the environment, Deb, that you have created, is let's create some playfulness to de-stress things, right? To bring it to a place of let's have fun. Life is not that serious. The world isn't going to end because a piece of glass broke, or we lost a client, or we made a mistake, or whatever. How can we look at that in a fun and playful environment? So you're to be commended that you have created. You're the heartbeat of this culture that you have created at Fishman PR. I congratulate you.
Thanks. It definitely takes the edge off. We're very serious about our results, and we're serious about the quality work, but we're also serious about not being so serious all the time about it. I think that's really what it is. I don't know how else to say it. It's we're serious about having fun, and even, I think Brad is known in kind of the industry as the guy who holds the parties, and the networking and like taking people out drinking and, so fun is a part of who we are. But I think people also know that we're serious about what we do, and that we really care about the success of our clients. And, but you gotta just blow off some steam sometimes.
Yes. So how do you blow off steam in your personal life? Do you have hobbies, crazy things you're involved in?
Nothing too crazy, really, honestly. If this might not surprise you, but I love going and watching improv and stand-up comedy.
Ah,
That's something that I like to do quite a bit. As a matter of fact, when I was in my 20s and even in my 30s, I continued even in my full-time job, in my full-time career. On the side, I was working part-time at Zany's Comedy Club, just like as a server and a ticket taker, just to be close to it. And, I was ever so close to that stage, never quite made it up there. But so yeah, that, and I just really enjoy walking. I put on my earbuds, I listen to podcasts, I listen to comedy, I listen to music, and I just walk around and I try to find like a different path, so I don't get too stuck on walking the same route all the time. You'll find like there's different parts of your town and like different neighborhoods and things like that I was like, oh my God, I never knew this existed, just by walking around through it. And I find that to be very mentally stabilizing, and I feel like a different person when I get home from a walk. Even if I'm fully stressed, it helps me decompress. So no, nothing really, outrageous out there.
That all sounds so inspiring. I know improv years ago when we were in our 20s, we were dating. We used to go to improv clubs in Manhattan. And I always thought it was interesting hearing how one person would throw out a word and the next person would have to catch that word and create the story around it. And the same thing with comedy, if you think about it. Somebody's relating something that happened to something that you would never think of, right? They're making a comparison, so to speak. So if you're thinking about it in the context of creating word associations and really thinking outside of the box, and that even pertains to you driving home a new way or you walking a new way, it really at the end of the day is all about inspiration and coming up with new ideas and coming up with new ways of comparing and marketing and selling things and spinning stories. And it all seems to lend itself to a lifestyle of inspiration and creativity. Like I literally have the chills thinking about that right now.
Yeah.
I love that.
Me too. So your whole life has some consistency here in who you are and the way you think and how you inspire the same. The ability to think outside the box and be creative and be inspired and have fun along the way, in your personal journey as well as your business journey. I could talk with this lady forever, Tracy. What do you think?
For hours, literally.
I could talk for hours, so be careful of opening up that door.
We are at a place where we have to wrap up, however. So Deb, how would folks learn more about Fishman PR and know how to get hold of you? What's the best way to do that?
Sure. If they just go to our website, fishmanpr.com, which I'm hoping to change the website soon.
Of course.
Get a new look. And then they just go into the About Leadership team. They could click and see me. I'm at Debra Vilchis at fishmanpr.com. They can find me on LinkedIn, all the usual places.
Perfect. Thank you for being with us, Deb. We really, really appreciate it. Hopefully we can have you back another time. I am going to take some notes as soon as I'm off of here because I learned a ton. Everyone else, thank you for joining us here on the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, relationships are forged, and profits are made. We'll see you next week on another interview.